And welcome back to the Power Accountability League. We are on part 4 of a series of videos entitled Ignoring a Sign 72 Times. And I'm starting to realize the number 72 is too low. The number should be higher than that. But anyway, we'll talk about that later on in the video. So we're going to get back to where we left off in episode 3. In episode 3, we started talking about investigative journalist Jen Moore. So let me get back to it. Number 61 on the list of people related to, somehow tied to the Clinton family. July 2018, investigative journalist Jen Moore was found dead in a suburban D.C. hotel room. Moore, an advocate who investigated abused and trafficked children, had been in the process of investigating allegations by a 26-year-old man that, as a young boy, he was sexually assaulted by Bill Clinton and pimped out at private sex parties attended by other D.C. elites. Moore was interviewed about the Clinton case on July 13th by YouTube and radio journalist Farmer Jones. 1 month later, Moore was dead. Her body found by employees at the Country Inn and Suites by Radisson, Washington, D.C. East, in Capitol Heights, Maryland. The investigation is ongoing. Autopsy results were not available on Wednesday. Just 4 weeks before her death, Moore filed details of the alleged victim's claims with the Department of Homeland Security, detailing the allegations against Clinton. Haunting final interview of murdered journalist Jen Moore. So this journalist, Jen Moore, in this website, they have a link to the haunting final interview. You'll have to look this up, and you'll have to watch it yourself. But again, just type in 71 people dead related to Clinton. You'll see these articles like the one that I'm reading you right now. Number 62. The mainstream media's silence over Klaus Eberwein's death is deafening. Eberwein was a former Haitian government official who was expected to expose the extent of Clinton Foundation corruption and malpractice next week. He has been found dead in Miami at the age of 50. The circumstances surrounding Eberwein's death are also nothing less than unpalatable. According to Miami-Dade's medical examiner record supervisor, the official cause of death is gunshot to the head. Eberwein's death has been registered as a suicide by the government of the USA. But not long before his death, he acknowledged that his life was in danger because he was outspoken on the criminal activities of the Clinton Foundation. Eberwein was a fierce critic of the Clinton Foundation's activities in the Caribbean island, where he served as Director General of the government's economic development agency, Fonds d'Assistance Économique et Sociale. It's all French. So my French isn't that good. Fonds d'Assistance Économique et Sociale for 3 years. So yeah. Sorry, I'm not going to master that one. That's all in French. The Clinton Foundation, they are criminals, they are thieves, they are liars, they are a disgrace, Eberwein said at a protest outside the Clinton Foundation headquarters in Manhattan last year. Again, this is all stuff from long years ago, so don't get too caught up in the contemporary nature of all these comments. Eberwein was due to appear on Tuesday before the Haitian Senate Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, where he was widely expected to testify that the Clinton Foundation misappropriated Haitian earthquake donations from international donors. But this suicide gets even more disturbing. Eberwein was only 50 years old and reportedly told acquaintances he feared for his life because of his fierce criticism of the Clinton Foundation. Number 63, Peter W. Smith, a longtime Republican operative from Chicago's North Shore who was at the center of a confusing Wall Street Journal story involving shadowy Russian hackers and Hillary Clinton's 30,000 missing emails, committed suicide, according to the Chicago Tribune. Smith, who was 81 years old, man, you wait till you're 81 to commit suicide? Smith, who was 81 years old, a former private equity executive and longtime political operative, killed himself in a Minnesota hotel room days after telling his story to a reporter from the Wall Street Journal, according to the Chicago Tribune. But there are too many strange circumstances surrounding Smith's death, and it's the second one in a matter of months that the mainstream media remains silent about. A Wall Street analyst who spoke to Peter Smith the day before he reportedly committed suicide told the Daily Caller News Foundation there was no indications the Chicago businessman and anti-Clinton political investigator was about to take his life. Number 64, Dr. Dean Laurice, a well-known surgeon who exposed major inadequacies in medical trauma care promised to the Haitian people by the Clinton Foundation after the nonprofit raised over $30 million in donations following the devastating 2010 earthquake, was found dead in his upscale apartment Sunday with a stab wound to the chest. Dr. Laurice, 54, was found lying dead on the bathroom floor of his apartment by his 11-year-old daughter with a knife sticking out of his chest. It was also ruled a suicide. Okay, so a doctor's... Okay, that's interesting. The predominant surgeon gained notoriety after operating on U2's frontman Bono and former running back Michael Cox, but had also worked overseas in Haiti, where he discovered an almost non-existent medical effort backed by the Clinton Foundation. In fact, in January of 2010, Dr. Laurice sent a detailed email to a confidant, which ended up getting forwarded to Cheryl Mills, who was counselor and chief of staff to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at the time, before being forwarded on again to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The doctor's correspondence provided by WikiLeaks, remember this is Julian Assange, was critical of how the situation in Haiti was being handled. Number 65, former Arkansas State Senator Linda Collins Smith was found mysteriously murdered inside her home last month. And so far, local law enforcement has been pretty silent on any possible motive or culprit. Considering she was a GOP state senator in the state where Bill and Hillary used to run wild, there's instantly cause for suspicions, however. Now we have learned that, according to reports, Collins Smith may very well have been close to closing in on a child trafficking ring within the Arkansas state government. There is well-substantiated evidence that the Clintons might really be involved in child trafficking, which would connect her deaths to the Clinton body count. Number 66, according to CPS insider Michael Walker, Georgia Senator Nancy Schaefer was murdered because she had hard evidence of senators and a certain person being on a plane removing American children out. Removing American children out. They left on a certain day. She had recorded them coming back, and the plane did not return with all American children. This is what got Nancy Schaefer killed. This is the last thing that she recorded. And so someone up in high power was on that plane, and that turns into the Linda Collins Smith testifying, and those connections are all there. Okay, that was a weird, convoluted quote from someone named Nancy Schaefer. But basically, sounds like Nancy Schaefer, who is a Georgia senator, was saying that Michael Walker had a bunch of information about children being loaded on a plane, and some of them didn't come back to America. Anyway, so that was poorly written and poorly spoken. So you'll have to go read them. I'm not going to go over this again. That was all poorly written and poorly worded. Got to get some water. Give me a second. My throat is causing me problems. I'm going to need to refill the water supply here. Okay, so let's get back. That last one was very, again, poor grammar skills, poor writing skills, poor reporting skills. But again, it sounds like child trafficking Clintons. That's all you need to know. Let's go back to where we were. In this video, there's a link. Walker emphasized that we need to look at Schaefer's death and the Clinton Foundation. Not long before she was murdered, Senator Nancy Schaefer put Bill Clinton in the middle of a scandal in which the CPS basically kidnapped children from their homes in order to put them up for adoption and receive money from the government, a directive that was set in motion by President Bill Clinton. The Adoption and Safe Families Act, set in motion by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. In order to receive the adoption incentive bonuses, local child protective services needed more children. They must have merchandised children that sell, and you must have plenty of them so the buyer can choose. Some counties are known to give a $4,000 bonus for each child adopted and additional $2,000 for special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. They also gave birth to a widespread phenomenon known as medical kidnapping, as well as a modern-day genocide against the Native American children, which are being removed from their homes in unprecedented numbers. Speaking of Bill Clinton, I think this is a good moment to mention his rape victims, which have publicly stated that they fear for their lives and that they have been bullied by Hillary Clinton on numerous occasions. Okay, so that was a long one. That was number 66, all tied to this Walker situation. So I don't know Walker. So who died, Walker or Schaefer? So I'm going to say it was Walker. So this Michael Walker died, and there's a big story about child trafficking and all sorts of stuff. Number six. So I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave that. You heard it. You heard me talk about it, or you heard me report it. I just read from someone else's website. Number 67. Maltese investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, who was described as a one-woman WikiLeaks after she had led the Panama Papers investigation, was killed in a 2017 car bomb near her home. The Panama Papers had a direct effect on the United States by revealing both elite and criminal donors who helped to finance the careers of Hillary and Bill Clinton through unethical offshore tax shelters. And they have a link to this article. Obviously, I'm not going to click the link. Number 68. Wherever the Clintons go and whoever they are close to often meet mysterious ends, often very strange suicides. The latest person to face this tragic end is Sabrina Bittencourt, an activist who exposed Bill Clinton's faith healer João Teixeira de Faria, John of God, as a child rapist and running a sex slave farm. Bittencourt was found dead over the weekend, just days after making the claims. Largely, the media is silent over Bittencourt's alleged suicide in her home. Sabrina Bittencourt was 38 years old, died at her home in Barcelona just days after accusing John of God, I read the name earlier, real name João Teixeira de Faria, of running a sex slave farm. She claimed young girls were held captive in a farming operation which exposed babies on the black market. Which exported babies on the black market. The women would be murdered after 10 years of having babies in the alleged scheme run by the 77-year-old celebrity faith healer, who was arrested last year after hundreds of women accused him of abuse, she said. Ms. Bittencourt left Brazil and was forced to live under protection after receiving death threats. Her eldest son, Gabriel Baum, confirmed her death, writing on Facebook, "She took the last step so that we could live. They killed my mother." Ms. Bittencourt had received reports of children being sold for between £15,000 and £40,000 in Europe, Australia, and the United States, she said. Number 69, and now you can add multi-millionaire Jeffrey Epstein to the list. Okay, I'm going to stop here. So we'll have a quick, there we go. Oh, we're going to have a quick little count. Jeffrey Epstein, number 69. You can do your, now a lot of these things that I'm reading you, there are links to other articles that back up what's being said in this list of 72. Because I'm going to talk about Christopher Stein. Anyway, so you'll have to find these articles about the 71 people that were somehow tied to the Clinton family that died mysteriously or died under bizarre circumstances. And again, there are many links to other corroborating sources. So you'll have to do the heavy, you're going to have to do, like in all my videos, I tell you, you have to do the heavy lifting. I'm going to share this information with you. And then you're like, well, I'm going to prove Dan L. wrong. So if you want to prove me wrong, that's okay. In fact, I encourage you to always be trying to prove me wrong. That means you're going to have to go do you can't just call someone names. You can't just say they're wrong or fail or whatever. You have to go prove someone's wrong. And the way to do that is doing your own homework. So that's why I'm reading you all this stuff. Because I want you to go find out, well, is this valid? I got to be honest. Listen, from what I'm seeing here, pretty bad. It's super bad. Anyway, so I'm going to talk just for a second about Jeffrey Epstein. So Steven Crowder actually did a video on the physics, the science behind the suicide of Jeffrey. By the way, recently the two guards who were supposed to be watching Epstein, they pled guilty to some misdemeanor charge. They basically lied. They basically were asleep or doing something. They basically were ignoring Jeffrey Epstein. There were two guards who were supposed to keep their eyes. Because remember, before Epstein committed suicide, two weeks earlier, there'd been some bizarre behavior from Epstein, some bizarre reporting about what was happening to Epstein behind bars. Epstein had been taken off to a doctor 2 weeks before he committed suicide. Now, I don't know all the circumstances, but the point is, the two people who were supposed to be watching him were not watching him, and they've just pled guilty to it recently. And you know what the punishment was for them pleading guilty to not doing their job? Nothing. I don't know if they were. I don't even think they were fired. They might. I could be wrong about that. So find out if they were fired. But I know from a criminal standpoint, they're not going to prison for what they did. They're not serving time behind bars. Anyway, so that's the end of part 4, and part 5 is next. Told you this was going to be a long one.